Welcome to the Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts. We are your international headquarters for resources and ideas and insight in relation to the 9 elements of holistic wellness. Join us as we interview local and international wellness experts and learn how you can implement and improve one element or dimension of wellness at a time. Our experts will share their practical tips on wellness in one of these core areas: emotional, intellectual, occupational, physical, environmental, financial, spiritual, social, or habitual. We created our family of podcasts as a resource for anyone who is looking to integrate the 9 elements of holistic wellness into their daily lives. Welcome to the show. Hi, everyone. I'm here with my new friend, Virginia. And just for the sake of people listening, I'm excited because I met Virginia through my friend, Shelley Starks. So, Virginia, welcome. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so thank you for the invitation, Jeff. Yes, my name is Virginia Nava Hieger. My company name is Transformative Power, and my mission is to elevate human potential. And the way in which I do that is through business consulting and marketing consulting, as well as coaching. And it was like surprising, most of the time I've done business and marketing for like 25 years or more. And when I became an entrepreneur, the more clients I have and the more different kinds of clients I have, the more I realize that what I really do is elevate human potential. And, most people use marketing as a tool to share who they are in the world, their own voice, their perspective. And I love working with people who are changing the world, and that are the people that I believe bring hope for the future. So my role is to facilitate the process for someone to really see their leadership and their unique gifts and utilize the form of marketing and business as a vehicle for transformation.
Awesome. We're going to get into a lot of that. We're going to unpack it a little. But first, I have a question up front.
Yes.
Um, would you mind sharing with us the importance you mentioned in our earlier conversation, deconditioning the ways we've been taught to relate to our self-worth? How does that apply to networking?
Yes. So I believe that what we believe about ourselves is the foundation in which we relate to the world. And I believe networking is simply a conversation with another person around enabling us to have the possibility of connecting and then doing something together, whether working together, collaborating, or introducing someone to another person. So how does this relate to self-worth? So if we come from a culture, society that tell us that self-worth is something like it could be an accolade, a title, something, and we believe that, we may not approach somebody because we may feel that we need to have this title or this certificate in order to go approach that person, or we may play those power moves around someone of feeling like we are in a higher position or lower position. I believe if we are able to decondition ourselves from an outer worth perspective into an inner worth perspective, then we come as equals. And I believe, when I was younger, my dad used to work in corporate, and he will bring vice presidents and all these people in my house. And I remember as a little girl, I was 5. And my dad brought this guy who was a president of a company. And, he had the nice outfit and the nice jacket. And, he was really charismatic, and in a way overpowering with his powerful presence. And I remember staring at him. And my dad said, we are all human. Like, he is the president of a company, we're human. And then he just kind of brought it down to a really basic level of this guy just wants to connect. And I remember him coming like a little bit scared into my house, to have a meal and wondering if we were going to ask something from him. And we just gave him a meal. We just have a real conversation. I could see this guy relax into, oh my God, they didn't ask anything from me. They just have a conversation, gave me a nice meal. So to me, I think that's the essence of deconditioning self-worth. It's that if we come to the game of life, knowing that we're all worthy, that we all have gifts and talents, that we all have something valuable to share, and then we come and open the door to the networking to have a conversation. And we also approach it not only as the way we see ourselves, but as the way that we see another human being. Then we're in this equal field of connection. And that's what I learned in that moment with my dad.
I love it. And I love that that's a lesson that's clearly resonated with you. And I think that's something a lot of people forget, is that, whatever titles we have, whatever roles we play, humans are still humans. Now let's get into some of the questions, and I want to thank you for being here because I love getting different perspectives. My first question is probably the most obvious, but somehow the most interesting and yet hardest to answer. How do you personally define networking, and how is it benefiting you today?
Yeah, well, thank you for that question. I think for me, networking has had different definitions over time. And I can tell you kind of I think if I share with you the journey, I think it would be more valuable than just giving you the simple definition. Would that be okay?
That is perfect.
Okay. So I've been a corporate person, in executive positions, and then I'm also an entrepreneur and an author, right? And in those different roles, networking has had different connotations. So when I was in the corporate world, networking was about building professional relationships, sharing your professional successes, and building opportunities to basically climb the ladder and get to the next level of success, as well as building long-term, long-standing relationships and partnerships. Then when I became an entrepreneur, I remember this, I've been an entrepreneur for more than 10 years. And I remember coming into entrepreneurship and going to this ladies entrepreneur event. To be honest, at that time, I thought I knew how to, do this. Like I've been, a corporate woman before and done this and that. And then I come in there and I remember I have this new entrepreneur friend and we're there, and, everybody has their 1 minute elevator pitch, whatever, And then I come in and I share, what I did, my title and my expertise, because, in my corporate world, really the expertise was really important. And then, I hear all these other women like sharing more about their personal life and things like that. And to me, that was really weird because that never happened in the corporate world. So I was like shocked. I was like, wow, like who cares? I was really shocked that somebody cared about that, right? I was like, I thought you cared that I have 25 years of experience in the field or something, right? So I came, after that meeting, like realizing, wow, this is like a new way of networking. And I had a conversation with one of my best friends. And I told her what happened. And I told her, like that I was shocked that people were not asking my expertise right of the way. And then they were more interested in other things. And then my friend sat with me and said, okay, Virginia, people care about you. They want to know you. They want to like you. They want to create a connection with you. And yes, the expertise is great, but they first want to connect with you. And then we went into this, can you role play, with me? And then we role played, and then we have this conversation, like it was a really personal conversation. And then I shared. So, that experience really got me to realize networking is not a science, it is an art form of human connection. And in that moment, it was really liberating in a way for me, because I was like, wow, I get to be me. I get to, say an inspirational quote if I want to. I get to say what my philosophy is. I get to say that I have a kid. I get to say whatever I want. So in that moment, it really got me to open me up into a total new world of networking. And then that happened, I have my connections in LinkedIn, and then, I'm from Mexico originally, so we are big in connection and developing relationships. And LinkedIn or other social media felt a little bit more that I couldn't see the face of somebody as much, or couldn't continue the relationship. So I met this guy who's amazing on LinkedIn, and I love him. And then he asked me, I said, I want to get better in LinkedIn. I want to share more. I want to do this, and that was like, I think maybe a couple of years ago. And he said to me, Virginia, what is your intention? And then to me, LinkedIn become also a way of networking, or building my network in a way, which then when he asked me that question, I was like, my intention is to build relationships, build long-term relationships. And my intention is to share what I'm going through, or what I'm learning, or something I know that may help somebody, and put it out there. So I realized that, during this key conversations, I realized that for me, networking or building a connection is really about having people kind of experience my warmth, and experience something that I have to share with them. And that I have different opportunities and different ways in which I can do it. So I can do it in a 101. I could do it in a 1-minute elevator pitch, or I can do it in a post. So when I start seeing the 1-minute elevator pitch, or the post, or the DM as an intention for creating a connection with someone else and serving. And serving sometimes means introducing somebody to somebody else. So it's not about self-serving, it's about serving. And so that's basically what networking, is for me. So in a way, networking is like a discovery. It's like a constant evolution, which is magical in a way that, that continues to evolve for me.
I love that. And I think one of the things I see, the best networkers I know are very self-aware, and they're very curious about others. Um, what would you say to that comment? Because I feel like that might be a nice nuance for the book.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, I feel that networking, it's about engagement, and the engagement, it's about discovery, and then curiosity, it's about like almost like a back and forth. You bring a question, the person answers, and it's not about having this checklist that, so it's not about, I tell you for half an hour what I do, you tell me for half an hour what you do, and then we're all done. So it's more about, a conversation. And I have a friend that calls this transformational conversations. So I believe networking is a transformational conversation. So it could be like, hey, I'm Virginia, I'm from Mexico. And the person asks me, where are you? Which part of Mexico? It could be like, what's your story? Like, how do you became, whatever you are, entrepreneur? Or how do you do that, writing book you do, or asking those questions, and then getting really curious about the person in many forms. It could be curious about how they came to do what they do, curious about why they do what they do, curious about their philosophy and value structure, curious about what do they look for, like what's their intention. curious about possibilities, what you can create. Like, through networking, I've gotten some best friends that I didn't went into wanting a friend. Like I went into just, somebody introduced me to do a business deal, and then I liked them. And I was like, hey, will you be interested in a friendship? And some people are like, yeah. So a couple of, my best friends in entrepreneurship came through actually networking, that I really got to know them. I like them, that I was like, I want you to be my friend. And then ask them that question, right? Will you be interested in being a friend? And they're like, yeah. Or will you be interested in doing, a workshop together? So it's like really getting to, I think in many ways, networking to me, it's about, I think the curiosity aspect is about kind of finding that common thread of humanity that really unite us into what we're looking for. And then if that is not there and there's no alignment, then it's also maybe finding other people that may be really aligned with the people we're talking with.
I love that. And I think, that there's a lot to unpack in there, because I think a lot of people see networking as transactional. And the point of this book is to dispel that myth. So I'm going to share one of my favorite questions I hear from non-networkers. And the reason it's my favorite is it tells me exactly who I'm talking to. When I say I'm 100% referral based, all my conversations come through networking. They immediately assume that I'm somehow unsuccessful and starving. What would you say networking has contributed to your own personal success, personal growth? What would you say to somebody who assumes that networking doesn't work for scale?
Um, I personally believe that everybody's different, right? Some people believe of relationships as, what am I going to get from you, instead of what are we building together. And I think the first thing I would say is reframing the way you look at a relationship is really important. So for me, I come from a culture where relationship is key. It's like a foundation, a structure of the culture. So community is key. Like, I wouldn't do business without asking somebody how is their family, how is their dog, how's their pet. Like, because then it will be insulting that I just go right to business with them without actually caring for them as a person, right? So in many ways, I had to adjust a little bit to be more quick into the business dealing in this culture. And, in many ways, it is cool, and it can be really efficient. But there is value in somebody, like I just talked to somebody that I haven't talked to in like 15 years from my corporate, life. I met him in person when I was visiting him with, a sales rep, and, as a marketing person then. And, I knew he had a daughter. He showed me that he loved photos. And I was able to then talk to this guy 15 years later and ask him, hey, how's your daughter? And he was like, we're empty nesters now. And how's your photography? You're still doing it. But this guy is a really successful, really important leader. And like sometimes they forget he's not just a leader, he's a person. And he wants somebody to ask them how they're doing. So coming back to your question about would referrals, it's, can you sustain a business with referrals or word of mouth? Yes, because I believe the sustainability of a business is relationship. And one of the things that for me is really surprising when I became an entrepreneur, the first year that I was here, I couldn't work because I was in a fiancé visa. So I was not allowed to work. And I was a workaholic. I worked 80 hours a week. So putting me to not work was horrible, right? So I volunteered in all of these things. Like I volunteered in a board, I volunteered with the Chamber of Commerce, I volunteered with this, I volunteered with every single thing you can imagine. I never done that before. But I built relationships with that. And it was not a strategic, like I didn't do it as a strategy to get a job. I just did it because I wanted to be active. And you know what happened? Through that volunteering, I got the offer of the job for the next year. Through that volunteering, I built relationships with this woman that I've seen for 7 years. And they've been or 15 years, I don't know. And they've been my friends. Like I got a consulting gig. One of them was the first person that helped me when I became an entrepreneur and introduced me to a large nonprofit, which became my first big client. You know, so and there was really, it was so funny too. Like there was a genuine, like in that time, I wasn't trying to network. Like I wasn't trying. I wasn't really like, you know what I mean? Like I was just trying to offer my services and my talent to help, society or whatever. I really did not have a goal in mind. And somehow, because I think it was so genuine, like I wasn't really looking for something back. Years later, those relationships, transform into my first, the person that actually became an advocate and got me one of my best clients, the person that actually got me an interview for my job that I got after that. So I believe that, if you have a business that is based on referrals, like I honor you for that. Like I honor that you were able to somehow create and build connections and lasting connections that felt that you provide value to them. So I feel like people that have a referral based business, they're really amazing in providing value for others.
Love that. And I think, a lot of people don't believe it's possible. And, one of the things I see is, when you're doing a lot of paid traffic, people don't recognize the cost of that in terms of energy. Because if I can generate 1,000 leads through paid traffic, I got to filter through that and find the one person I really, really love working with, or maybe there's a few. Whereas when I work on referral only, I get really cool people, and those cool people bring me other cool people. Um, and I love you sharing, Virginia, and this is just fascinating to me, how coming from Mexico, you had to adapt to the more transactional, and I'm in Canada, but North America, a lot of people want to get right down to, business. Um, I annoy some people because I ask them how the weather, how they're doing. I want to know about the human. And I think what people don't realize, they think I'm asking a bunch of questions to be nosy. But for me, if I don't like the human, I don't need to do business with them.
Mhm.
And again, it's not a judgment of them as who they are. It's just, if you're very transactional and you need to get right down to business, I'm probably not the guy for you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I feel we all, I believe, I don't know, somebody maybe has done this or not, but I feel like we all have different relational styles.
Yeah.
And some people are really like, some people have relational styles where it's power over. So it's about how do I get power over you to be like the top dog kind of thing, Then some people have a relational style that is really transactional. Like, this person and this, and then because you know that person, then you provide me value because of this. And then my goal is that you provide me value on that. And then if you do, then I'm done.
Yeah.
And some people really have relational styles that are about long-standing relationships. And I agree with you, Jeff. I think a lot of the interactions provide us with the opportunity to analyze, like, what is our relational style, and is our relational style congruent or in alignment, you know and and I think, and also I think there is value in like knowing, okay, well, that maybe a person is really transactional, but they're good at what they do, and they say, okay, well, this person is going to be really transactional, but they do a great job, so you can go with
Yeah.
them, right? So there's value in different kind of relationship styles, I think. But I think there's also, for me, I believe in relationships, there's like, and I think it goes to networking too, is that it's like, this is who you are, then this is what your inner circle is, this is what your next inner circle is, and then this is what the rest of the world is. So for me as a Mexican, my inner circle and my next level of inner circle, they have certain characteristics in common. versus, the general, like, world. And, when it comes to kind of interviewing people that are in the inner circle of my business, whether it's a referral partner or whether it's a person that is a contractor to do a project with me, there is a lot about asking, like, are we value-based, aligned? Like, do we align in value-based? And even with clients, right? And I think asking those questions, but I think it does take time, especially, as an entrepreneur or consultant or leader, to have that self-awareness about, and that it's almost like a process of self-discovery too, who is aligned or not, because you need to know yourself and who you are.
I love that. Now, and I think it's fascinating because I think, a lot of people want other people to network the way they do. And I've just realized sometimes you just need to pick the rooms you're in. Now, I'm going to be on the lookout for people who have come from Mexico and are networking here, because I feel like that's going to be, um, honestly, that's kind of the networking style. And by the way, I do recognize that certain cultures are better at it. Um, I love the Hawaiian concept of ohana. I think they embrace, you know, very well. It's not about the transaction today. It's the community. Everybody, they refer to everybody with titles of honor, your auntie, your uncle. I think certain cultures just get it. And I think, unfortunately, in North America, we've kind of lost that relationship first approach to things. So, what advice now? Let's go back to how you've been honing, because I recognize that you have a genetic predisposition to being great at networking, but you've clearly honed it. What are some of the tools, the mentors, the advisors, who's influenced your networking the most, and what tips do you have for somebody who's just starting out in networking?
So I will share with you, and maybe what I will share is a little bit unconventional, but I think that probably my mom was one of the biggest influencers in when it comes to networking, because I think she showed me how to build relationships, and she was a natural community leader. She was a tribal leader, and she had all these friends and then got them together. And what I learned from her, it was that networking requires leadership, and requires that the leader um it's not looking only after themselves, but it's looking after the community itself. So it requires that, okay, if I want to invite you to this event, right, then what is in it for you to be in this event? Or if I want to invite you in this conversation, what is in it for you in this conversation? So and seeing her, being a tribal leader in different kinds of environments with different kinds of people, and seeing how to use her talents in some ways in some people and in some other ways with other people, I think it's really important. So for me, some of the tips that I've seen for me is that I have different kinds of skill sets, right? So I have a strategic skill set. I have business strategic skill set. I have an author skill set. I have a coach skill set. And at the beginning, when I was trying to do the whole networking in the traditional kind of way, it wasn't really working for me, because it just felt like some of it was too unidimensional in a way. Like it was like, I come, I tell you for 1 minute, I do a strategy, whatever. Then you don't really know what that means, and then you walk away, and then you have no clue what just happened, right? So it's not really helpful, right? But then what I learned was finding, and this is more like a marketing strategy thing, about finding where is there a gap where my talent is valuable, where I can bring some value into the table, and where there is cohesiveness around what I'm looking for. So for example, I found like 1 million cups, and like 1 million cups, they do all these pitches, and like there is networking in it. Like you can go talk, but you can also hear somebody pitch, and then you can give feedback. So I've been doing that, and there's a organization here in Atlanta called the Entrepreneur Hour that meets every week. And basically, I was able to, somebody else actually introduced me to this group, and then I started participating, and I love being there because I was able to give my feedback as a strategist. So people actually knew what I was as a strategist because they could hear me give feedback. So that was a really great way of networking. And then it gave me open doors for people that needed strategy and wanted to have a conversation. Um, I also think another way of networking that is really valuable is to know the leaders of a network, and to have, if they're available, sometimes they're really not available, but if they are, to have conversations with them and getting to know them and getting to understand what are the challenges for the community. Another way I have built my network has been through advisory. And sometimes I don't volunteering advisory. So what I feel is that when you build a network, you have to understand what you bring to the table, and you have to understand what is the best like way of showcasing it. Because otherwise, I think people then basically just get your, in some networking opportunities, people only get your personality, and that maybe they like you, but that's it. They don't get to see your expertise. And in some places, because you're able to showcase your expertise, then you go from I like you as a person to I trust you because you sound like you know what you're talking about.
Right.
So I think there are opportunities. I recently recommended this to somebody about, there are ways in which you can volunteer for a board. You can volunteer for, a board of a large organization you want to be part of. So then you get involved in the organization, you get to know what's going on behind the scenes, right? So those are some great recommendations I have. In terms of books, I love the book that it's called Connected by Nicholas Christakis. I found it to be a really amazing book that talks about expanding your connection. I can also recommend David Alto. I love David Alto. He is an influencer in LinkedIn. And one of the things that he and I have in common is this love of people and really making the world better. And his core intention really is to help people have a better career in life. And there is a woman that has been a mentor to me, and her name is Magdalena Bachmeyer. And I wouldn't say that maybe necessarily she's a networker in the sense that she wrote a networking book or anything. She's a neuroscientist, and she's built a really successful career in all her areas. And she's done it by really understanding self-agency and self-leadership. And I think to network, coming back to my original message about self-worth, is I think to be able to network, which I think we have to ask ourselves, first of all, what are we networking? So are we networking because we want, so say, for example, if our goal is to network because we want to to help improve someone else's life through the service or product we're selling. And if network is the avenue to do this, I believe that in between that, there is the self-knowledge and the self-agency. It's about self-leadership. It's about taking yourself into an uncomfortable situation, which could be like not knowing the person and just say hi, right? Or like, so it's the self-agency of being able to be uncomfortable so you can grow beyond your comfort zone. And I think people like this woman who is a neuroscientist provide incredible tools that help you grow into the next level so you can actually show up to receive and to ask for what you need from the network.
Love it. And by the way, that's one of my little moments. I shared this once, and people were like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." I said, when you come to networking, if you don't know who you are, please don't ask me to try and figure it out in 3 minutes, because I'm going to fail.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of people, there's a lot of weirdness around the phrase the elevator pitch. I personally like it because if you've taken the time to think about who you are, what you do, who you serve, um, I'm going to have a lot more confidence connecting you with somebody in my network. I'm not kidding. I get a lot of people who say, well, I serve humans. Well, be a little more specific. There's 8 billion and counting. I'm pretty sure the entire planet is not in your space. So, um, how do you help people? What are some of the tips you'd give for the readers, the listeners? How do they hone that elevator pitch so that it attracts the people who need to hear it and equally repels the people who don't need to hear it?
Well, the first part, I think, I'm a believer on the inner work because I think that a lot of people have 20 elevator pitches, like they have 20 like outfits, right? And a lot of it is because of right? Like when you're coming into a human to share who you are, it's a really vulnerable thing, right? And for a lot of people, really, they don't want to go through the vulnerability of rejection. And because and I think it's really natural. I think it's an evolution. Like so if somebody's starting and is a new entrepreneur, is really vulnerable to come with your idea and say, this is what I do. So I think what happens is in the inner work, it's about really going back to your why. Why are you doing this? So, okay, worst case scenario, somebody rejects. That happened to me once. I got an entrepreneurial thing. I say what I did. The woman is like, I don't want it. No. And she walked away and I was like, whoa, like I never had that reaction. It was like really scary. I was like, just like, no. And she left and I was like, what did I just say? I just said, like, I love people. I have gifts and talents and human potential. I help them bring it out into the world. I was like, I insulted her, but she just had a clear no that somehow she's not into human potential, right? So I think the first part is really coming back to why you're doing this, right? Because, a lot of people here, I think, that follow you probably have a big heart that want to make this big difference in the world. So if you come back to your elevator pitch first with what is the outcome you want out of this elevator pitch? And like the outcome is you want to help a life, right? In whichever form, and if that's you, right? And then the second is owning what you have to give. So, are you a talented musician, a talented writer, a talented business strategist, a talented whatever, right? Like own what you have. And don't feel bad about owning it because if you don't own it, nobody can own it.
Mhm.
And then the third part would be to come into a place of invitation. Like I'm inviting you into my world, sharing who I am. And then if you shut the door in my face, then that's fine. I'll just go and walk into the other door because it was not for you. And in that way, I feel like, I think a lot of times when people come to me with the marketing and the messaging and the keywords and everything, there is science, right? About, the value proposition you're giving. Like what is the impact you are providing that, how are you connecting with their what is their problem and need at the moment, and how are you connecting to the gap that you're serving.
Love
So
that.
there is science in that, but there's also science that if you are changing and shifting to the value you're providing, and now you're this and now you're that and now you're that, in order not to face rejection, then you're missing the opportunity to meet in front of the people that you want to meet. So for me, for example, when I really started saying and owning that I am really passionate about helping people that have gifts and that want to really express the, highest potential by helping others with who they are, and I help it through marketing and strategy, then I really start owning that's what lights me up, right? And then if somebody doesn't want to express the potential and they want to conform to being, I don't know, whatever, then that's cool, right? But if somebody's like, yeah, I want to get to my next level of potential and they're with me, then that's my, ideal client. So yeah, so I think if you go back to that and if you And if you go back to being okay, that even if you got a no somewhere, because I think that's the greatest fear, and I think that's the reason why we don't show up in our greatest light in an elevator pitch, because we are afraid of rejection. But then if you on the other side believe that you're committing to using your voice, because you are there for that one person that you want to impact, or those few people you want to impact, or tons of people you want to impact, but it's the specific people, not like everywhere. When you own that, you own your tribe, because your tribe respects you, because it's like, wow, like this woman, I saw her a month ago and she said that. This woman, I saw her 2 months ago and she said that. I saw her a year ago and she said that. Maybe like 2 years ago, I thought she was a little weird, but then now I think she's cool, right? Because, because when a person is consistently saying the same thing, you are building your credibility, not in one conversation. You're building your credibility by the consistency of your commitment to what you do. And your elevator pitch is not only words that you do, or only a marketing analysis that you do. It is a commitment to yourself, to your mission, and to those you serve. And when people see it, they're like, oh my God, yeah, it's just the person with the gifts, or he's the person that does the eclipses, or he's the person that does I don't know, like hypnotherapy or whatever, And then the people start noticing, because you own your message. So I think I think it is beyond words. I think it is a commitment. And I think a voice is a commitment. And it's I think it's hard to get there, but it's almost like putting your stake in the ground, that this is my space. This is what I'm here for. And I think there is something that when you do it like that, people trust you. And people say, hey, this person has my back in this, So yes, I would like to inspire you to just, try it. Like try it for, for 6 months. Try to do your elevator pitch in the way that you want to.
I love it. Now, Virginia, I want to get you back to your day, but thank you so much for this. Is there something I haven't asked you that you'd like to share just as a final thought for our readers?
Yes. Yeah, I think the question that maybe you haven't asked is just regarding, my process around the gifts. And I feel like for me, as an entrepreneur, I'm a strategist, right? I've been a strategist for like 25 years. I've strategized multi-million-dollar like brands, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a believer on a strategy. Like, believe me, I believe in strategy. I believe in roadmaps. But one thing that I didn't realize, it was how important as business leaders and entrepreneurs and creators is to really do the inner work. And for me, when I did my inner work and I really got to understand my gifts and talents, I was able to really own them, and I was able to go back all the way to childhood when I was writing books, and to understand, why am I, being a communicator is part of my gifts, or why is bringing human potential in other people is part of my gift. And then you start discovering that some of these things are innate gifts that were given to you. And you also start discovering that sometimes it was, it was like my dad was a big business guy that we have business conversations since I was 5 years old. Like my grandma was like always a believer in me, that I think is part of my coach inside of me. So as you start really sitting with yourself, you really start getting stronger in your confidence, because you start understanding what your gifts are. And then I always use the word gifts, because a lot of people, I think, feel that they're not good enough, or they're not perfect enough, or that it's not humble to be amazing. And I really believe like a lot of it is gifts, like really genetically you were predisposed to be something, it was actually a biological gift, like some of it's that you were in the right school with the right teachers, with the right people that really help you create this talent. So a lot of these things are gifts that are innate and gifts are learned. So I really would like to invite people to really sit down and say to themselves, I'm a great communicator, or I'm a great leader, I'm a great listener, or I'm a great innovator. And not be scared of owning that, because when you own it, then your self-confidence increases. And then also your ability to take responsibility to help others increases as well.
I love it. Well, Virginia, I want to point out to my audience that, people who are authentic and just show up when you need them. I reached out to my world and said, I need to interview some great people. Who do you know? And of course, Shelley brought us together. So, Virginia, I want to thank you for taking the time to hang out with me and share your amazing insights.
Thank you so much, Jeff. And thank you for the listeners too for opening your hearts and minds to listen to our conversation. And thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to either click the link below or scan the QR code to register and listen to other episodes of our podcast. Or if you think your business or you would be a great guest to be on our show, we're always looking for experts in one of the 9 elements of holistic wellness. We'd love to have you. You can either click the link below or you can scan the QR code and complete our speaker intake form. Thank you, and to your wellness.